With the U.S. economy shuddering to a near halt, the Dow Jones Industrial Average plummeted nearly 3,000 points, or 13%, its biggest one-day percentage loss since the Black Monday crash of 1987.
Yeah, the rapid work stoppage had Americans absolutely fretting about their jobs, and their savings threatened to overwhelm unemployment benefit programs and heighten fears that the country could plunge into an absolute recession. And to talk about all of this, joining us now from Durham, North Carolina Central University, Dr. Henry McKoy. He's the Director of Entrepreneurship at NC Central. He's a seasoned professional in business, community, and economic development. So, Doctor, thank you so much for joining us, first off. And how does all of this have an impact on our economy, especially in the Black community?
Well, thank you for allowing me to be a part of this program. It's a very important topic, as we have seen over the last couple of weeks. I mean, this has just taken the economy by storm. And so I say, first off, certainly we look at the economy and it's coming to a halt. I mean, not just usually it's maybe in a particular region, a corporation shuts down and that puts people out of work, or sometimes a country can have a recession. But now we're talking about a global recession. So, what we're seeing is a unprecedented slowdown. Hotels, restaurants, tourism, airlines, those kinds of industries are really grinding to a halt. And certainly that has a direct impact on the Black community, as we make up a lot of those service industry professionals. And so, we saw today that American Airlines and other folks are talking about laying off. We know that hotels are being shut down, that restaurants are being shut down, and folks are getting laid off. A lot of times, the folks are getting laid off look like you and I. And so that's certainly having an incredible impact on our community. And so from a real crisis point, a lot of us in the community are living paycheck to paycheck, and losing that paycheck at this moment is really troubling, especially not knowing when the end game is coming.
So, Dr. McKoy, how does this affect people who are hoping to be entrepreneurs?
So that's a great question. Certainly is one that is creating a whole lot of challenges. African Americans have grown more entrepreneurially in the last 5 to 10 years than any other group. During the recession, we grew entrepreneurship by 39%. White community lost actually entrepreneurship by about 5%. But a lot of those businesses are just getting off the ground. And so small business is certainly a critical part of the economy, but those small businesses are the ones that really are seeing the impact first. They're the ones who don't have the economic buffers. They don't have the access to large lines of credit. They don't have access to capital. They don't have access to the public markets. And so small businesses where we're going to see a tremendous amount. And again, because African Americans have started so many small businesses in recent times, particularly Black women, we're going to see those businesses potentially shut down, and they likely will not be able to recover. And so that's something that should be worrying a lot of us.
And Doctor, let me ask you this: with the cut in the Fed of the interest rate down to zero, how is that an opportunity for Black folks in small business?
Well, I think one of the things about this particular issue is that this is a different kind of crisis. So most of as we enter into a recession, the recession is driven by economic issues such as, consumer demand goes down because of, maybe overproduction or something in that standpoint. This case is different because we have an economic slowdown that's driven by a health crisis. And because it's driven by a health crisis, there's a lot of uncertainty, and it's a health crisis that we haven't seen before, and one that we don't know how it's going to end. As your lead-in said earlier, this vaccine that started being tested today could be a year available. And so, the actual drop of the interest rate to down near zero hasn't had the impact that it might have in other times, because people are just afraid. They don't know what to do. And with the government coming in and sometimes closing of businesses, restaurants, schools being shut down, no one really knows what's going to happen going forward. And so this kind of stimulus, even with Fed rates around zero, won't have the same impact as it's had in the past.
Dr. McKoy, we've heard different politicians, Mitt Romney, for example, tossing around the idea of giving each American $1,000 or a lump sum of money. Is that something that could actually help?
Well, I think so. I mean, I think that we know, back recession or the beginning of last recession, there was some kind of Americans got. Again, this is a unique situation where so many people are being put out of work at one time. I mean, I think there's a number of ways that could exist. This one way is in some direct cash to individuals, helps them to kind of continue their spending. Again, this is a little different from a stimulus standpoint. If you remember, some years ago there was something called cash for clunkers or something to that standpoint. The idea was, hey, if you take your car in, you get some cash, you can buy a new car, things of that nature. This is a different situation. People now are going to be trying to figure out, well, how do I keep my lights on? How do I keep the roof over my head? And so I think this is going to have to be a situation where both the public sector and the private sector, along with the philanthropic sector, has to come together and come up with creative and innovative solutions. So it may be that the unemployment insurance becomes something that maybe you extend that, maybe you make that larger from the federal level, but certainly a rebate that would come to individuals would be helpful. But again, in some ways, it probably should be targeted to individuals who are out of work. Those are most affected by this. Small business owners, the SBA could come along and do something from a standpoint of infusion of capital. And so there's a lot that must be done from a policy standpoint to address this issue right this moment.
Well, we got the policy issues that are out there, of course, and the federal government and what they may or may not do. But in a situation like this, isn't it more incumbent upon local government? I'm talking about state, municipal, all these folks, churches, people getting involved to help each other at this point in time with a crisis like this?
Well, man, I think it's a combination. There's a lot of things that we can look at. So, for example, we can think about leaning on our friends and family for help. We can call our churches and the local nonprofits in the community to figure out, what they might be doing to help feed individuals and things of that nature, help having some funds that could help individuals. Certainly the local government can step in. So calling your local Department of Social Services and figuring out what opportunities may be there. But this is one of those global crises that the federal government is going to have to stand up in a big way. And so it's all of local, it's state, it's federal, and it's also people from the community. So those things all will come together, hopefully to bolster the economy in a way that allows for recovery. Coronavirus is behind us.
All right, Dr. Henry McKoy from North Carolina Central University, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Great information. Thank you.